Hello everyone. Today Group 1 will present to you topic Impact of Education and Age on Allocation of Family Time. Before we start, I would like to introduce our group with 7 members: Ahmad Haziq, Muhammad Haziq, and Rafi from University Kebasan, Malaysia, and Tuan Ngan Thương from Vietnam National University. Managing time effectively for family and household matter is a matter that must be considered in the daily life of each adult and household around the world. This report has the purpose of understanding how age and education level of the head of households affect the factor above. This report only seeks to take conclusions and understand the result of the survey. Future research on how age and education affect the survey would be beneficial to understanding how two factors can be influential.
Definition and explanation. The definition of education, as stated by Barry Chazin, is a purposeful activity directed at achieving certain aims, especially the transmission of knowledge. The term education is divided into two main categories. The first category being certificates, which start from certificates, bachelor's degree and above, and the second category being secondary and lower, which start from no education at all up until year 6. Next, the definition of age. The age here refers to the age of the head of the household. It is divided into three categories. The first one being the young head of household, whose age range from 21 until 36 years old. The second one being middle-aged head of household, whose range is from 37 until 52 years old. And the last category being elderly head of household, whose age are 53 years old and above.
Family time is one of the most valuable time where we can spend with our family. Most people use this time to escape from their stressful working life and be with the people they love the most. Family time promotes a sense of belongings where children can experience being part of family and create a closer bond with them. It is a healthy trait that family members can have a great relationship with each other so that their bonds between them can be strengthened for many years to come. There are many ways we can spend time with our family together, which is family meals, household chores, having pets, sharing the responsibilities, and having a walk around the park. This research was done with the purpose of investigating two main relationships. The first one is being the relationship between education and allocation of family time, and the second one is being the relationship between age and allocation of family time. The objective of this research is to find the conclusive evidence that shows concrete view on how education and age respectively to impact allocation of family time and determine from where what are the viable suggestions and initiatives that family members can take to solve the problem of time allocation for family. In conclusion, family time is one of the most vital aspects in life to maintain a balanced lifestyle for all family members. Finding free time to spend with family can be challenging, but it is as important as cultivating every family members with moral values and skills they need to explore and survive in the outside world.
Next part is methodology. There are two methods we are using in this research. The first one is information collection methods. Primary data were collected by surveying household heads through an online survey conducted in May and June 2022 by COIL. There are 671 respondents from countries such as Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Korea, and Japan. The second one is data processing methods. We collect data were processed using Microsoft Excel software. The collect data are statically grouped according to different criteria: time allocation criteria and perception of the importance of time allocation criteria. The next part in our presentation is data analysis. We decided to divide age criteria into three groups: young, middle-aged, and elderly heads of household. Also, we divide highest education level into two large groups: group with higher education, and group with average education. I will talk about the main part of each of the criteria. The first part I want to talk about is housework. It can be seen from the table that young and middle-aged households usually spend at most 4 hours doing housework, while elders choose to do this job for less than 2 hours due to the bad health. In terms of education level, the average work time of higher education work is 3.31 hours, 0.15 higher than average education group. Most of households choose that they do 2 to 4 hours accounted for the largest proportion, about more than 40%. The working time is quite large. Young and middle-aged people hire someone to take care of their children. Therefore, 42.66% of respondents in this group choose less than 2 hours, while more than half of elders choose this option too. The average time that the household spends with the children in the higher education group is a little higher than average, 2.85 compared to 2.8. Working time occupies a large part of the daily schedule, so the time spent with resting also needs a corresponding amount to restore health. For every 3 household heads in this age group survey, about 1% choose from 2 to 4 hours. The research team can assume that the household belonging to the more educated group tend to spend less time on breaks and focus on working and taking care of themselves and those around them. Several highly educated households has an average vacation time about 4.087 hours, nearly 0.2 hours lower than the average education householder. According to the survey results, more than 39% of households think that they need 2 to 4 hours for psychological activities. About 2.5% lower is that leaders of families often need less mental health time than 2 hours. Talk about the education criteria. The average time spent on mental health and problems of the highly educated households had was about 0.08 hours higher than that of the high school educated group. This shows slightly more concern about the mental health of the highly educated group. The combined results from the questionnaire show that the older you are, the higher the percentage of Jews spent on social relations under 2 hours. Evidence for this is that 39.25% of young household heads, 44% of middle age, and 47.97% of elderly choose this option. The difference is quite evident in the average time spent on social relationships of the highly educated group compared with the lower educated group. When the highly educated group spend about 3 hours, while the graduate group spend about 2.6 hours. After synthesizing survey data, the research team found that the time to generate income from household heads is inversely proportional to their age. The percentage of household heads working to generate income for 2 hours or more gradually decreased from 74.74 in the young age group to 72% and 66% in the middle and elder age group respectively. The research team also found that the survey household heads with high education will have more than working to generate income than those with less education. Working time to generate money for the family of survey household with certificate or higher is about 5.3 hours, about 0.7 hours more elevated than those with high school diplomas. As time passes, as people age, their health decreases, leading to decreased physical activity time. According to the survey results, the percentage of surveyed households who think that the time spent on physical health is less than 2 hours tend to increase when classifying the age group from low to high. 45.05% for the group of children, to 70.1% for the elderly group. The research team also found no significant difference between the two education groups surveyed when the time needed for physical activity was measured up approximately 2.7 hours per day. The same can be said as time spent using electronic devices tend to decrease when increasing age. The percentage of young households using electronic devices for 2 hours or more is quite high, about 58%, about 40% higher than that of the elderly group of households. The duration of the survey household had with education is, on average, slightly longer than that of the higher educated group, with a difference about 0.11 hours. But when comparing the proportion of different parts of two groups, there was not too much difference in the aspect. According to the survey results, the percentage of for spiritual activity less than 2 hours accounted for the majority for our three-group survey. About 54% of young households surveyed that spend 2 hours or more on spiritual movement, especially Islam. The survey results found that the average time spent on spiritual activities of the heads of highly educated households was about 12 hours lower than that of a group with high school education, and more than 50% of highly educated households surveyed that usually spend less than 2 hours on this activity. From the survey and synthesis results, the research team found that the majority of surveyed households had agreed that it is extremely important to arrange a reasonable timetable. The rate is nearly 60%. In particular, the research team found that this percentage tend to increase when the age of the head of household increases, with almost 55% of the young leaders gradually increased to 58.43% of the middle age and nearly 72% for the elderly. Similar to assessment based on the age of the household head, most of the interviewees agree with the idea that the timing is important in more detail. Survey households with high education agree with this view more than those with low education, 61% versus about 55.5%. After 2 years of being negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, the economic situation of the family has deteriorated more or less. About 40% of respondents said that they feel uncertain whether they have time to work to generate income or not. Meanwhile, nearly 40% disagree and think they have enough time to work. The selection rate from surveyed households has increased as their age increases. The same can be made in terms of education criteria. However, the heads of households with a high level of education from college, intermediate, or higher level are shown that they have less time for working than the other group, when nearly 24% agree with this view compared to the other group. About 18.5% of households have an average education. About 37.5% of surveyed householders choose unusual as their opinion when asking if their time off was enough for them. This choice may be due to the excessive amount of work that leaves them no time to rest, or because they have negatively affected them, making it difficult for them to relax fully. Also, the percentage of households has with an average education who disagree with this idea is much higher than that of other groups, nearly 40% compared to only 28%. The average age of surveyed household head is about 29.9 years old in the middle age group. The younger groups spend more time developing themselves and getting more qualification to achieve a higher salary. Therefore, only 28% of the head of households in this group think they do not have enough time to do homework because they have to go to school and work to support their families. When looking at education criteria, most households disagree with this view, especially those with average education, nearly 28% compared with about 26% agreeing. According to the survey data, nearly 60% of surveyed households are men. They often pay less attention to their children's care and education and spend more time on work and other relationships. At the same time, they also believe that the wives should take care of the children. This may partly explain why the rate of agreement with this view is lower than the rate of disapproval. Moreover, young people often spend much time working and developing themselves, earning more income for their family. This may make it difficult for them to take care of their children much. From that, it can be seen that the survey also has of the young group has a higher consent rate than the young group, about 27% compared to 26.7% and 11.4%. Most surveyed householders, voting for nearly 44%, think their family is helping them in economic activities alone, such as taking care of the children or doing housework. They can focus their action on economic activities to increase family income. Similarities can be seen when considering the educational criteria of the household head. The percentage of surveyed households with higher education is higher than that of the group with average education, varying from 6% versus 40%. From the above result, it can be seen that the percentage of people who disagree with the view that because they are the head of household they don't need to do the housework average of about 47%. This may be due to the changing mindset about housekeeping. Not only women but men and children also participate and share in this work. The percentage of households with higher education and less educated households held in the view is not differ significantly, about a little more than 2%. This again shows that both sexes gradually accept housework regardless of education as a daily activity. Scheduling as a host is always one of the most important things. In particular, according to group surveys, up to 40% of households think that this is the most important activity because it affects both directly and indirectly other family members. The research team also found that the percentage of households with a high education level agreeing with this view is much higher in this group, with the leaders of households in the lower educated group, 41% compared with the survey result just 6%. When, when asked about optimal arrangement of the time, the common point between three households is that most of them remain neutral or support the arrangement. About 40 to 50% are kept at the initial level, which proves that they still have doubt about the working order and arrangement sometimes cause discomfort to those around them. The research team also found that the average number of educated households had surveyed through the working time was 3 months, accounting for nearly 29%. Meanwhile, this rate for highly educated group is only about 37%.
Next, we will move to the suggestion to have managed time wisely part. Being conscious of time will result in self-improvement and goal achievement. That's true in both your work and personal life. Here are some tips to help you spend your time effectively. First is conduct a time inventory. For 2 or 3 days, keep an hour-by-hour journal of how you spend your time. That includes work, exercise, meal, and social media. Then review this question. Where did your time go each day? How was it spent? What time of day were the most productive? When was your brain least energy? When was little accomplished? Where were the pockets of waste time that could be used more intentionally? And by really examining your time inventory, you can see more clearly what exactly is getting in the way. And the second tip is to create a daily plan. Using what you observe in your time inventory, create a daily plan, starting with a list of everything you need to accomplish that day. Follow up with those tasks or activity you want to accomplish, then establish a timeline, task by task, taking you through your way from start to finish. Try to arrange tasks in an order most likely to lead to success. And the third tip is plan ahead. Planning ahead is a critical part of time management. Ideally, you should plan ahead for the week or at least the day before. When you know exactly what needs to get done for the day or week, You will stay organized and focused. You can break tasks across the day to see in advance how much time is needed to complete a project. Even spending just a few minutes planning ahead can transform how you work. The fourth is prioritize wisely. Prioritize tasks based on importance and urgency. For example, look at your daily tasks and determine which are important and urgent. We will do these tasks right away. Important but not urgent. We will decide when to do these tasks. Urgent but not important. Delegate these tasks if possible. Not urgent and not important. We will set these aside to do later. And the last tips we bring is delegate and outsource. You can't do everything by yourself, so cut yourself some slack and delegate. Maybe it's time for you to train someone to do some simple process in your work or office. That free you up to focus on the bigger project or the more complicated task. You can even outsource the work to an experienced freelancer and save your money. So we will move on the conclusion part.
To conclude, there are various methods that are able to utilize in order to allocate time wisely, especially when managing time on various tasks in the household become important in daily life. The importance of managing your time wisely is recognized by the analysis done by the research team, where the majority of respondents in the survey agree that allocating the correct amount of time for each activity in the family time is crucial. To solve this problem of lack and uncertainty of time allocation, there are 5 things that can be done in order to effectively manage tasks. These are to conduct time inventory by keeping a journal of how time is spent to see what the time is spent on, creating a daily plan from observation of time inventory, planning a day ahead, prioritizing based on urgency and importance, and to finally delegate and outsource tasks that are able to be delegated. This is the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, please comment down below. Thank you and see you next time.